Welcome to the Eternal Self, a space where ancient wisdom meets modern longing and where we explore the soul codes of greatness, genius, and dharma across lifetimes. I'm your host, Sonia Sharma, founder of Phoenix Wealth Academy, and today is a sacred conversation I am deeply looking forward to. So, before we begin today's sacred conversation, allow me to introduce our extraordinary guest, a woman whose work has bridged timelines, traditions, and the spiritual longing of thousands around the world. Dena Merriam, a spiritual teacher, interfaith leader, and the founder of the Global Peace Initiative of Women, an organization that brings together spiritual voices from all faiths to address global challenges. A longtime practitioner of meditation and the spiritual sciences, Dina is also the author of several deeply transformative books, including The Untold Story of Sita and the Turning of Rukmani and the Turning of Time, My Journey Through Time, and To Dance with Dakinis. I've read two of her books so far, and I can't wait to read them all. Her writing draws from vivid recollections of past lifetimes and offers profound insights into karma, dharma, divine feminine energy, and the soul's evolution across time. In 2014, Dina was honored with the Nivan of Peace Prize for her work in fostering interfaith dialogue and deepening spiritual understanding across the world. It is truly a blessing to have her with us today to explore themes of sacred identity, timeless dharma, and what it means to live from the soul. So, without much further ado, I welcome Dina to this podcast and the series of talks that we have lined up to do together so that I can uh, quench my own curiosity to start with because her work is so extensive and I have so many questions that this entire series can go on for years and years just alone with having dialogue with this whole reservoir of timeless wisdom. And today is going to be a start of a beautiful chapter in my life, and I hope that my viewers and people who are going to tune into this channel can hugely benefit from the works of Dina Merriam. So, Dina, welcome and thank you for joining us. It's such a joy to have you here, and it's my great honor and privilege to be having this conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great. So, Dina, shall I start with? We're going to do this podcast for about 40 to 45 minutes. And frankly, I mean, the amount I've read so far about your work, I can go on and on and on. And I think, you're a reservoir of wisdom and timeless knowledge. And I think the series can go on for a very long time. So, my basic uh, quest here is that if we could do a series of talks together to just nicely peel off all the pearls of wisdom that you've put in your books.
Happy. All I can speak from is my personal experience. So I have had many years of experience now. So I feel at this stage in life, what I can do is share that, in the hope that it provides some benefit to people.
Brilliant. It definitely is already doing a lot of that, Dina. Every time, every page of your book that I read, it opens up a piece in me. It's just so magically written. And there's
And
so
I'm so happy to hear that.
great. So before we dive in, I want to begin with a question that opens the heart a little. Tina, I'm curious to know in this phase of your life, what is feeling most alive or meaningful for you right now?
Right now, what is feeling most meaningful for me right now? I think the there have been so many people who have been spending years and years doing their own inner work. And it feels to me like the call of the moment is sort of like to bring that together so there could be a collective shift. So it's really trying to mobilize our collective spiritual efforts so that humanity can make a leap forward because there's so many challenges that we're facing. And you know, it all the outcome depends on our consciousness, whether we proceed with wisdom or whether we proceed out of the old paradigms of greed and self-centeredness, etc. So the shift is critical. So a lot of my thinking these days and my writing is how we can sort of like galvanize that spiritual energy that so many people have been cultivating within themselves for a collective shift.
Yes, beautiful. Yes, Dina, I think I'm totally resonating with that as well. I think a lot of people have probably come to a certain stage where a collective could only kind of help us know and get to the next level of where from now, because a lone wolf can only just go that far. Yeah, I
I think it's both. I think we have to work on our own issues because we are part of the collective. And I think this new book that I'm just finishing, Sita's Yoga, sort of it really demonstrated that for me, how it's so important it is to work on your own shadows because you are part of the collective. So we are part of the collective. So so we have to be conscious of working individually and collectively, sort of be in both headspaces at the same time.
Yes, yes, got it. Brilliant. And I'm very curious to hear a bit more about the Yoga of Sita. But before then, I just also want to have a few questions which might be very relevant for people today. So the next question that I had in mind was like, if Mata Sita were speaking directly to young adults today, living in the world today of hyper competition, quick desires, seeking gratification, instant gratification, overwhelming uncertainty, what guidance might she offer uh, for people in today's times?
I think our sadhana is twofold. Regular meditation is important. Serious introspection is important to look at the qualities you need to work on, and then how we behave in the world. So these are like the three aspects of our sadhana, each being equally important. When I was younger, I used to think all I had to do was meditate and everything would be fine. But through life experience, you realize that unless you change, unless you're transformed, then you're just sitting on a cushion. So, and how do you see your transformation? By how you act in the world. So cultivating the dharmic qualities. One of the things that I look at in this new book, Sita's Yoga, is how do you counter greed,
Yes.
excessive greed, which was one of the characteristic qualities of Ravana. But Ravana is not just a personality, Ravana is a force. We see Ravana in the world today in excessive greed. How do we counter that in your own life through generosity? So there are qualities that you can, if you look at the collective as a big sort of collective mind, there are people who are adding this wanting, 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 unsatisfied greed, and there have to be people who are adding this generosity, and it's not just financial; it's generosity of love, generosity of time, generosity of being, just becoming a model of generosity. And I think that Sita would advocate for this path, this dual path of do your practice so that you can keep yourself centered and not get shaken by anything in the external world. Practice is needed to help you stay centered, and at the same time cultivate the dharmic qualities. And we have a chance every day in our lives to we're confronted with situations where we have a choice. How are we going to come from our higher self, or are we going to work, are we going to live from our egoic needs. We have choices continually. And so cultivating the Dharma qualities of kindness, generosity, humility, that's the other half of our sadhana.
So, how we bring ourselves to the world. So, while we're working internally on ourselves, but how does that reflect in the world in true action, not just in theory, not just in idealism, but when nobody is watching, what are you doing then? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. How are you interacting with your family? How are you interacting with your friends, with your colleagues? How are you, responding to situations that come to you? All of these things test what we've gained in meditation. In meditation, you think, oh, I feel so peaceful and joyful. And then you go out into the world and you get hit by all these things. And you get to test how much you really have attained in terms of those qualities. So we should welcome these tests because they show us where we need to keep working.
Yes, got it. Beautiful, beautiful. And just there's another question, Dina, in my mind. It's I've just started to start reading the Moon Rising.
Bright moon rises. Yeah.
When the bright moon rises, and I mean, I can't even explain how I feel when I read the words and everything, but I'm curious to know, in the beginning somewhere, Dina, you said that in the forest, or even in the in between times, there was a sound vibration that you would merge into. Can you talk a little bit more about sound and vibration and what you were experiencing then, and what does it really mean?
Well, there is a meditation practice. There's Om, which is the cosmic vibration, right? Which is sort of the vibration that brings things into manifestation from the unmanifest to the manifest. One can tune oneself into that Om vibration, and there are meditation practices to merge with it. I think in the higher ages, and the book begins in a higher age, sort of somewhere in the Satya, probably declining Satya Yuga toward the end of it. These practices were just part of life, where one could hear the Om vibration and feel it in one's being and feel oneself as part of that Om vibration. And today, there are practices where when you sit in meditation, when you close off your senses, you can hear that it's an internal sound. That sometimes you can hear it externally, sometimes you hear it internally.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful.
Vibration is critical. You know, I'm just writing in the Sita's Yoga that in the Satya Yuga, mantras were not needed because people lived in the consciousness of oneness, of unity,
Hmm.
in that unified collective field. But as Satya Yuga spiritual consciousness began to decline, the rishis sought ways to help them return to that consciousness of oneness. And they were given these mantras, sacred sounds, which corresponded to certain cosmic vibrations that would enable them to again reach that state of oneness. But over time, again, there's a decline as Treta Yuga proceeds, and they began to be used for other purposes, to control the weather, to curse, to bless, no longer just to regain that Satyuga consciousness. And then in a further decline, rituals were formed in
Oh.
order to so you see the decline from being in that state to finding ways to regain that state and then beginning to use those practices for other purposes.
Hmm. Got it. Wow, beautiful. Right. So now coming to Yoga of Sita, you've mentioned it a few times, Dina, and I'm very curious to know what can you share right now about what it means in the deepest sense? How does it differ from the more yoga, or as we know as the Ashtanga yoga, the Hatha yoga, and other forms of yoga? So what is the essence of the Yoga of Sita?
Sita's yoga um, is is how she guided when Sita left, returned from Lanka, and then left the palace for a life of retreat. Uh, Many of the people in that surrounding area had some connection with Sita, either from a previous birth in Mithila they had some connection with her. And gradually, over her years there, they came to her for counsel, personal problems, problems in the villages. And this is the guidance that she gave to several of the villagers. It's told through the voice of a village woman, a highly advanced soul, but born as a village woman not so far from where Sita was living. She first encounters Sita, of course, doesn't realize she's the Maharani, but she finds that Sita's first as an inward presence guiding much of her life. This is a very advanced soul, actually. And then she begins to get, through Soma again, very practical teachings. For example, the yoga of forgiveness, the yoga of generosity. It's how it's how to complement your meditation practice with forms of yoga that you can practice in your everyday life. Because what is yoga union? These are the qualities that one cultivates in order to reach a higher state of awareness. In other words, it's essential in our sadhanas, as we go through our sadhana, that we transcend the ego and begin to realize our true self. So, what are the qualities to cultivate in the process of that journey? That's what she teaches.
Beautiful, beautiful. And Dina, these days there is a lot of talk, and I mean, I've had some personal experience as well around awakening the goddess within, and you know, how do we, and maybe that is self-realization, but at the same time, is there anything that that you can shed some light on? That is this something that everybody can aspire for? And how do we actually, like, in the Lalita Sahasranamam as well, there is a phrase that I live in your heart, Hiranya Varnam. I don't remember the phrase in Sanskrit as such, but how does one actually go about, is there a thing like activating the goddess within?
That's what sadhana is, activating the Devi within. And I think that there's a part early in the book where this village woman uh, doesn't realize that the Sita, who she's seeing and meeting, is the Maharani. At a certain point, she realizes she's the Maharani, and she's very confused. And then Soma comes to her. Soma is Sita's attendant, who's actually much more than an attendant, and and gives her her whole teaching about who Sita is and who Ram is. And then at the end, she says, Sita did not come to reveal who she is. She came to reveal who you are.
Wow.
And from then on, the whole teaching is to find and at the end of the book, this village woman she actually finds Sita within. She finds the Devi within, and she finds Ram within. And I know that's the whole teaching I've received, because whenever people would go to my own guru, Yogananda, what should I do, Guruji, about this? And he'd say, go meditate. He wouldn't say do X, Y, and Z. He'd say, go meditate and find the answers. The answers are within you. And so if he just told you what to do, what would you learn? How would you grow from that? If you're getting external inputs, he might guide you. He might say, do this practice and that practice, but it was always go within, because that's the way you find yourself.
Yes,
And,
yes.
and who are we in truth? But part of that, part of the divine consciousness.
Yes, it's all about just actually fully realizing that fact, not just in like at one level. I mean, it starts with at one level, then another level, but to deeply know it from your core is the journey, I suppose.
To get there, you've got to shed many of the coverings. You've got to get beyond anger. You've got to get beyond fear. You've got to get beyond pride. You've got to get beyond the things that are blocking the light. And that's the work. That's the work of our everyday life, is to get beyond those things of judgment, get beyond judgment. So catch yourself as soon as you're making a judgment. And it's hard not to make a judgment. You see people doing terrible things. It's very hard not to have a judgment of that.
Yes,
And
yes,
that's discussed a lot in this book there's a fine line. I mean, Sita and Ram, they battled Ravana. Well, they battled him. So, what is the teaching for us there? So, how do you battle in a dharmic way so you're not reacting from a place of anger or judgment? So and those lessons from that time are as relevant today as ever because the challenges are eternal challenges that everybody has to face, no matter what time or place you live in.
Yes, yes, yes. Beautiful. Beautiful. There's so much that I've soaked in just this one conversation, Dina. There's so much for people to take in with only just this brief conversation that we've had. Is there anything else for this podcast, Dina, that you would like to say to people at this point? And what's your message?
The message is we are, as humanity, we're at a crossroad with so many factors. I could name, half dozen aspects of that crossroad, whether it's climate change, AI, there's so many things that are now moving very rapidly. So things seem to be speeding up, and we're at a threshold. So our individual practice, both on the cushion and off, both in meditation and how we behave in the world, is very critical right now. How we can be part of the collective that is trying to awaken wisdom to know how to deal with the challenges that we're facing so that AI will be used wisely in a way that really helps humanity, trying to avoid the pitfalls that everybody is now talking about, and that climate change, that we can adapt in a way that we can change our consciousness so that we begin to look at the earth and her resources differently, not as commodities but as living systems of which we're a part, that we must respect and care for. So some essential shifts are are underway, and we all have to be part of that. We all are part of it, whether we like it or not, whether we're aware of it or not. What we do affects which way we're going to go as a human species. So so it's incumbent upon us to do our practice and to be mindful of the qualities that we're cultivating so that we're strengthening dharma and weakening adharma.
Brilliant. Yes, yes, Dina. So, I think let's close this one at this point. We've soaked in a lot of information and everything. And I'm going to go deeper into the other books. I'm most curious about getting to the talks that the wisdom that you've given in the Rukmani book, because there you've mentioned about, and I've not yet finished the book or even started actually the Rukmani book, but it's been waiting there for me for a while now. But there you've talked about how Rukmani helped people uh, go over their past karmas. So, in the next podcast, I'm going to first do my homework and then I'd like you to please shed more light on, because that's crucial for us to move forward in individual consciousness, in evolution, and in collective consciousness that you're talking about. It's very, very important for us to understand what baggages are we carrying and how can we now shed them for growth.
Wonderful. I look forward to talking about Rukmini.
Yes. Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, Dina, and
Take good care, everyone. Bye
thank
bye.
bye for now. Thank you.